Okay, we're going to talk about absolute value. Absolute value is the distance between a number and 0. So, math loves symbols. Here's the symbol. If I had this right here says, what is the absolute value of -3? That's the way it looks. That's the symbol right there. It looks like a number inside of a bar. So what that's saying is, okay, here's -3. How far is it back to 0? So it is 1, 2, 3 spaces. So my answer is 3. If I said, what is the absolute value of 7? And that's what that symbol says. What's the absolute value of 7? That means, okay, if I'm at 7, how far back is it to 0? So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my answer would be 7. What is the absolute value of -2? So if I'm here at -2, what is it back to 0? 1, 2. What is the absolute value of 4? So that's saying, okay, if I'm at 4, how far is it back to 0? 1, 2, 3, 4. Guys, are you seeing a pattern here? Let's look. When this asks for the absolute value of 3, the answer was 3. And when this said what was the absolute value of 7, the answer was 7. When this said what's the absolute value of -2, the answer was 2. What is the absolute value of 4? The answer is 4. Let's make it smaller here where we can see them. So again, it's always that number that's inside those bars. That's always your answer. But notice it's always positive. This started out as a negative, but my answer was positive. This was positive, so my answer was positive. This was negative, my answer came out positive, positive, positive. Because it's talking about a distance or steps. You can't have negative distance or negative steps. Even if you walk backwards, you're still taking steps. So, the trick of absolute value is the answer is always the number inside of those bars, but it's always going to be positive. So I could say, what's the absolute value of -46? Well, I don't want to make a number line from -46 back up to 0. I just know the answer is going to be 46. It's always going to be that number inside of those bars, but it's always going to be positive. Well, what if it was already positive, Miss Pelton? What's the absolute value of 90? 90. What's the absolute value of -125? 125. What's the absolute value of 1,000? 1,000. So do you see the pattern? Absolute value is always that number inside the bar, but the answer is always going to be positive because it's talking about a distance. Okay, so let's talk about opposites. What's the opposite of up? Down. What's the opposite of on? Off. What's the opposite of left? Right. What's the opposite of good? Bad. So we know opposites. So what's the opposite of a negative? A positive. What's the opposite of a positive? A negative. So if I said, what is the opposite of negative 4. Well, the opposite of negative 4 is a, sorry, I can't get the right color, positive 4. Okay, what is the opposite of 16? Well, that is a positive 16. So my opposite would be a negative 16.